Hey everyone, I'm Andrew Fazekas, the Night Sky Guy, your host every week to talk about what you can see in the night sky wherever you are around the world. Welcome. I'm so happy that you can join me. I've got the comments open and I can see wherever you guys are. I hope you can just pop in where you're watching from. I love to see folks from all over the world tuning in and sharing basically our passion for the night sky, our curiosity. That's what it's about. And it doesn't matter if you're in a city or out in the countryside, we can actually view the sky together. And boy, it's exciting times. We've got some really neat stuff coming up this week. And before I jump right in, I wanted to remind people to stay watching this episode because at the end of the show, I'll be giving away another copy of my book, Backyard Guide to the Night Sky. This is a wonderful little book. I'm so proud of it. Put out by my publishers at National Geographic book publishers. Fantastic outfit. They're so supportive at National Geographic. I can't say enough about how fantastic they are. And they totally supported me in putting together, jam-packing this book with all my tips and tricks that I've gained over many decades of sky watching that I'd love to share with you, all about star hopping, choosing telescopes, using binoculars, how to engage children into the hobby, and about the science behind some of the neat, cool facts about the things that you can see up in the sky, all in this book. And I'll be giving away a copy at the end of the show. So keep watching. So with that, why don't we jump right in to the planetarium program? Here we are. We've got the sky set up for June 13th, 2022. And we've got this is a beautiful sunset, or dusk, I should say, view of the sky. And what you'll notice right off the bat this week is that the moon is not there until late at night. Actually, as the week goes on, the moon is only visible later and later at night into the early morning hours, and will actually take part in a beautiful planetary parade, and I'm going to talk about that. You don't want to miss. I'll be in the next few minutes. So sunset, one of the main stars you'll see are Spica and Arcturus, two very bright stars. Usually in the springtime, we're heading into the summer in the northern hemisphere. Those of you, my friends, that are in the southern hemisphere, of course, winter is on its way. And so we're changing seasons, and these stars will appear to be winking out of the sky this time of the year, sort of bowing out, moving off into the southwestern sky below the horizons soon in the coming weeks. But we can still see some amazing sites with Arcturus and Spica, what I want you guys to notice. So you're looking towards the southwest. Spica is the lead star in the constellation Virgo the Maiden, while Arcturus is the brightest star in the constellation Bootes. The herdsman. And what is really neat is look at the difference in the coloration. Arcturus is orangey yellow, while Spica is distinctly blue. So just a really beautiful setup in the contrast of colors. And these colors, as I've mentioned in previous episodes of stars, when I talk about stars, the colors of the stars, they represent the temperature that they're actually glowing at their burning. So the hotter the temperature of the star, the more blue towards the blue part of the light spectrum that they appear to glow, while the cooler stars are more orange and red. So here Arcturus is distinctly yellow-orange, while Spica is blue, telling us that Spica is a much hotter star. And very interesting also is the distance between these two stars. Arcturus is only about 36 light years away, while Spica sits at a whopping 250 light years away. 2.5 centuries for the light to reach us. I always love to talk about that, because that's, I think, really what really boggles the mind is the distances. And we can really tell the distances by how long the light takes to reach our eye from these objects we see in the sky. So if we move along, there's now this time of the year, there's something interesting in the southern. Let me just move here towards the south. I'm going to make it a little bit darker. So a couple of hours after sunset. This is late night. This time of the year in the northern hemisphere, the sunsets are later and later. And for me here, it's almost 8:45 p.m. It's like 8:45 p.m. The sun sets here in Montreal. It's a very late night, and we have to wait until around 11, 12 o'clock at night for it to really truly get dark. But once it does get dark, what's really interesting is I wanted to show a faint constellation this week. Just very quickly, going through this is if we draw a line through our two bright stars. In this case, we go through Antares down here towards the south. We're looking towards the south. So if you face towards the southern horizon, you'll see an orange star close to the horizon. That's Antares. It's the brightest star in the constellation Scorpius, the giant arachnoid, right? There you can see the clutches of the scorpion, the arachnoid. And then to the upper right is Arcturus. We talked about Arcturus just a few minutes ago. And if you draw a line, an imaginary line between these two orangey yellow stars, just off to the left is a snake-like configuration of stars. They're faint. You might need binoculars to see it if you're within city limits. They're fainter stars, but they are within naked eye viewing ability if you're in a dark kind of countryside, definitely. And this represents Serpens. Serpens Serpens is an interesting constellation because it is kind of coiled around another constellation, and Serpens is actually divided into two sections: the head of the snake and the tail of the snake, while it's wrapped around what we call the serpent bearer constellation, which is Ophiuchus. So there's actually three constellations here. Really strange. It's kind of a quirky constellation, Serpens is, because it's divided into the head and tail, and it's literally separated by another constellation called Ophiuchus. Really weird stuff. And what's neat, so again, easy to find this constellation because you use an imaginary line from Arcturus to Antares, and just look to the left for that winding snake head part. And then if you want to find the tail, well, that's easy to do too, because what you would do is, again, use Antares in the south and draw a line to Altair, again, towards the east. Another very, very bright star. Altair and Antares, draw that line, and just above that line is the coiling tail of that snake, Serpens. So Serpens caput and Serpens cauda are the two specific names of the different parts of the serpent snake constellation. Now, you can obviously see this bright thing, this band over here. Well, that's the Milky Way. The Milky Way runs through this part of the sky. So if you take your binoculars and you scan this part of the sky that I'm talking about here, between Antares and Altair, you'll be going through the center part of the Milky Way galaxy. Millions and millions of stars are visible this part of the sky. Lots of fun. Highly recommend it. And of course, if you have a telescope, there's just like multitudes of deep sky objects like star clusters, nebulae, all scattered across this part of the Milky Way. And I can see somebody here who Jeffrey says, Milky Way, is that a candy bar? Yeah, it is a candy bar, but it is a galaxy too. And surprising, funny you bring that up, Jeffrey, because when I go out and teach kids at schools, that's what I say, isn't that a candy bar? And I go, well, it is, but it's also originally, before the candy bar, is our home galaxy. So it's really, really funny. Jeffrey, thank you. Thanks for reminding me that, because that is something that I do get that from kids. So, but those of us that are in astronomy, of course, get that all the time if we do outreach events with kids. It's and adults as well. But they're there to teach them, basically guide them to the wonderful world of our home galaxy. So that is a fantastic place to explore. And one of the things that I wanted to kind of point out to you guys is a beautiful globular cluster. Again, not too hard to find. If you draw that line between Arcturus up here and Antares down here, again, we're looking towards the southern sky late at night. Once it gets dark, anytime this week or next week, great time because the moon is out of the evening sky. And if you draw that imaginary line between this thing and take your binoculars, sweep that area, you'll find almost halfway mark between these two bright stars. There we go, is something called M5. M5 is a massive deep sky object, and it's easy to find even with binoculars. If we zoom in on it, and with binoculars, this is kind of the view that you would get. Let me see if I can get that in here. Approximately like that. This is what we call a globular cluster. And I'm just going to take these crosshairs off if I can. Let me get it off there. There you go. Right there. You see that? I'm going to zoom in even more. This is a telescope view of it. So this is a collection of over 500,000 stars all packed into a ball configuration, and it stretches about 70 light years across, and it's over 25,000 light years away. So what you're looking at is you're looking back in time 25,000 years. It's incredible. And it's easy to see with binoculars and telescope. With the binoculars, it'll look like a fuzzy cotton ball, something like that. Very faint. Right? With a telescope, again, still faint, but much more detail, especially on the outskirts of this globular cluster. Man, imagine it's about 500,000 stars all packed together easily within 100 light years, probably closer to 70 light years in the case of M5. So great object to see. Where is this object? Well, again, M5 is about a little past the halfway mark between Arcturus and Antares in the southern sky, and it's in the constellation Serpens. Serpens, the snake. And by the way, this is an ancient constellation, goes back to ancient Greek times, and it's associated with medicine. We've seen that coiled snake along the staff. It's also part of the World Health Organization's emblem logo. That's where it comes from. It comes from this constellation, Serpens, very anciently associated with medicine. So there you go. That's a very cool thing to go out this week. I'll put a sky chart for this later this week, so just stay tuned. Whether you're watching on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, I'll make sure I'll have a sky chart available for that. Now, one more thing before we leave. Of course, everyone's talking about the planetary parade that's going to be in the morning skies, looking towards the east, south, and east, southeast, south part of the skies in the early morning. So the trick here is you need to get up early, about an hour to half hour before your local sunrise, looking towards the east. Make sure you find a spot that is clear towards the east, no obstruction, no houses, no buildings or trees, and look for this amazing lineup of all the major planets that are visible to the naked eye. And in this case, we're talking about Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. All of these planets are visible to the naked eye and will be in a lineup in our early morning skies. So you guys don't want to miss this. The show will last for most of the rest of June, but what's going to be interesting is we're going to have the moon come into play. So this is the view on Friday, June 17th. You'll see the moon peeking up on the right there. By June 18th, the moon will be right next to Saturn, 19th passing it. By June 20th, Monday next week, it'll be in between Jupiter and Saturn. And then next week, I'll be talking about how the moon will be going past Jupiter, Mars, and even Venus, and then eventually Mercury by the end of the month. Fantastic stuff. So stay tuned, because I will be doing more shows about this planetary parade, this great family reunion we're seeing in the skies above that are visible right around the world, except if you are in North Pole, South Pole, or if you're in really high northern countries, say in northern Canada or in northern, like in Scandinavian countries, it'll be almost impossible to see because of the daylight, too much glare. But if you are especially in the tropics and southern hemisphere, it'll be even more fantastic, because this lineup of planets that you see here, this is pretty much what's visible in around New York, Washington, kind of London, Tokyo area. It'll be even almost vertical, these lineup going way up to the sky. Very neat. The most challenging of all the objects visible here is going to be, of course, Mercury. Now, one more thing that I'll add for those of you that are a little bit more advanced is if you look at this early enough where it's darker, here I'm going to go back a little bit. All right, look at this. Look what's happening. Uranus right there and Neptune are also joining the party. So what's really, really cool, guys, is that you've got Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn in a row in the order that they are in terms from the sun, the distance from the sun. How cool is that? And then add to that, you've got Uranus and Neptune. Those are visible only through binoculars and telescopes, but Uranus and Neptune are also joining the show. And of course, as I've said, the moon will be hopping from one planet to the next over the course of the next couple of weeks, and will help you especially find Neptune and Uranus over the next 2 weeks. I'll be talking much more about this in the coming weeks, so don't worry. So stay tuned. That's about an hour to half hour before your local sunrise. That's where you got to go and see it. You could start going out now and seeing these planets. They're absolutely beautiful. You don't want to miss it. No telescope or binoculars are required to see Venus, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Mercury, like I said, is kind of challenging, especially if you're living in northern latitudes. It may be challenging because it's very close to the horizon. It's getting a little better over the course of the next week or so, and the rest of the month it climbs a little higher, so be patient. But the other planets like Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, easy to see, and just watch them. They're so cool, and the moon is going to join them starting this Friday. So fantastic stuff. I don't want you to miss it. That's why you're tuning in, right? And so if you want to learn more about astronomy, of course, I highly recommend checking out my book. My book is The Backyard Guide to the Night Sky. It's fantastic stuff that covers all kinds of easy to find things. Even more challenging things are in there. Just it's kind of a good starter book. It's not the only book that you might want to have for astronomy, but it's definitely a great starter book, and it's also something that makes for a great gift as well, if somebody is interested. And like I said, it's packed full of information, and because it's made by National Geographic, you're almost guaranteed that the quality is right there. The photographs are just amazing. I've selected a lot of the photographs that are in here, making sure really good representations of the objects in the sky that you're going to see. And also the maps are great in terms of learning how to star hop in the sky. That's all in there. So you can find that in any book store, and of course on Amazon as well. And I'm really excited and proud that it is considered one of the best sellers in field guides to astronomy. So I'm sure you'd liked one. So I'm giving one of these, thanks to National Geographic, a copy this week out to the 12th person that basically writes out the words "the night sky." The night sky, to the 12th person who writes "the night sky." I will give a copy out to you. It's across Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. So I'll be looking at all of you guys from all those different channels, and the 12th person in a row on my master feed will get it. And I'll let you know after the show. So with that, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please show your support by sharing the video with your friends and family and network, and basically subscribe to my channel, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook that you're watching, or Twitter. I'd really appreciate it. I'm here every Monday between 1 and 2-ish, sharing basically my knowledge about the night sky that I've gained over many decades of doing outreach with folks around the world. Thank you so much. And oh, by the way, I will have a guide to the planetary parade in the sky in National Geographic coming out on their website in the next few days. I will post all the details so you don't miss anything. Make sure you go to my pages on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Thanks again, guys. I can see all of you there chiming in. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you again next week. And until then, I wish all of you clear skies. Bye-bye.